During which event did the US and USA come the closest to actually fighting?
Well reasoned. Cuban Missile Crisis is the correct choice.
Which foreign policy promised to aid countries resisting communist takeover?
Excellent. Truman Doctrine is a brilliant choice.
By cutting off supplies, Stalin hoped to make this part of Berlin communist.
Solid response. West is a valid choice.
The leader of nationalist, communist forces in Vietnam in the 1950s was Dash.
Nice work. You chose Ho Chi Minh, and it is correct.
In which of the following places did no fighting occur during the Cold War?
Well done. France is the right choice. Who was the US president who made the decision to drop the atomic bombs? You chose Truman, and it is correct.
Which is a group of communist rebels who seized power in Cambodia in 1975?
Smart move. Khmer Rouge is an accurate answer. The United States and the USA came closest to nuclear war during the Dash. Great thinking. Cuban Missile Crisis is the right choice. Who overthrew the government and set up a Soviet-supported regime in Cuba? Excellent choice. Fidel Castro is the right answer. How did the West respond to the Soviet Union's blockade of West Berlin? Correct. The Berlin airlift is the right answer. A competition between nations to build powerful weapons is called Dash. Bravo. Arms race is the answer. Where is the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea located? Valid point. 38th parallel is true.
Where did the two major conflicts of the Cold War occur?
Exactly. Korea, Vietnam makes sense, and it is right choice. Which of the following events involved the CIA training Cuban exiles? You got it. Your choice Bay of Pigs invasion is right.
The Marshall Plan was able to invest $1 billion in Europe.
Smart pick. 13 is the correct choice.
South Vietnamese guerrilla fighters who were supplied by Ho Chi Minh.
Strong choice. Viet Cong is the right answer. How was Vietnam covered differently by the media than previous wars? Nicely done. Television is a solid answer. Who is the communist leader in Cuba that the US tried to overthrow? Sharp thinking. Fidel Castro is the right choice. Which of the following people was the communist leader in China? War. Good job. Your answer Mao Zedong works well here. The Soviet Union controlling Eastern Europe was called the Dash. Ash. Great job. Iron Curtain is the accurate answer.
What term means condemned for having a communist background?
Right choice. Blacklist is the best answer. Is best known for investigating communism in the film industry. You're right. Huac is the correct answer.
In 1946, Stalin declared communism was incompatible with what?
Good thinking. Capitalism is the right answer. The main goal of the Dash was to stop the spread of communism. Clear logic. Your choice Truman Doctrine is sound and 100% true. What did Americans fear most about the Cuban Missile Crisis? Perfect. A nuclear war is the correct choice.
Which of the following Chinese leaders did the US support?
Right again. Chiang Kai-shek and Kang is a valid answer.
After we, the United States had which type of government?
Correct response. Democracy is the most accurate answer.
What did the US naval blockade of Cuba become known as?
On track. Cuban Missile Crisis is the correct answer.
After we, the Soviet Union had which type of government?
Well picked. Communism is the correct answer.
Which term means countries dominated by the Soviet Union?
Nice selection. Satellite nations is the correct and valid answer.
Korean and Vietnam War occurred during which time period?
Right choice. Cold War is the best answer.
Vietnam was a colony of what country prior to the war?
Nice work. You chose France, and it is correct.
What did young people burn to protest the Vietnam War?
Correct. Draft card is the right answer.
What country's capital was split into two east and west?
Excellent. Germany is a brilliant choice.
In 1950 invaded and started the Korean War.
Right again. North Korea, South Korea is a valid answer.
Which of the following conflicts lasted the longest?
On track. Vietnam War is the correct answer.
Who came to North Korea's aid during the Korean War?
You got it? Your choice, China, is right.
What did the Soviet Union form in reference to NATO?
Well reasoned. Warsaw Pact is the correct choice.
General Douglas MacArthur commanded US forces in.
Valid point.
Korea is true. Who was the commander of the US forces in Korea?
Correct response. General Douglas MacArthur is the most accurate answer.
Where fighting not take place during the Cold War?
Well picked. United States is the correct answer.
What kind of government did Ho Chi Minh establish?
Good thinking. Communism is the right answer.
Which country placed long-range missiles in Cuba?
Perfect. Soviet Union is the correct choice.
What US president was the first to visit China?
Smart pick. Richard Nixon is the correct choice.
What major country was behind the
Iron Curtain? Nicely done. Soviet Union is a solid answer.
What was the first satellite launched into space?
Solid response. Sputnik is a valid choice.
What agency spies to gather information abroad?
Clear logic. Your choice, Sia, is sound and 100% true.
In what country is the city of Berlin located?
Great thinking. Germany is the right choice.
Most anti-war demonstrations took place where?
Exactly. Colleges and universities make sense, and it is right choice.
This type of government is run by the people.
Bravo. Democracy is the answer.
Which parallel divides North and South Korea?
Good job. Your answer, 38th parallel, works well here.
Which of the following events happened first?
Excellent choice. Korean War is the right answer.
What country needed rebuilding after Bowie?
You're right. Germany is the correct answer.
Who led a rebellion in Cuba in the 1950s? Well done. Fidel Castro is the right choice.
Who supported North Korea during the war?
Strong choice. Soviet Union is the right answer. Was the leader of the communists in China? Smart move. Mao Zedong is an accurate answer.
Vietnam was divided into what two parts?
Great job. North and South is the accurate answer.
East Germany was controlled by.
You chose a Soviet Union, and it is correct.
How long did the Cold War last?
Nice selection. 40 years is the correct and valid answer.
Who built the Berlin Wall?
Sharp thinking. The Soviet Union is the right choice. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format. You're right. Contact Narayan Chengda is the correct answer.